Okay, and continuing on the theme of strategies for combating link rot, we're heading into our last panel for the day, which is Strategies 2, and we'll talk about some other existing methodologies for trying to combat this preservation problem in some specific and broad ways. As Michelle mentioned this morning, Carolyn Cox, who's in the program, was out ill today, so I will try to do justice to her presentation. I'm going to talk first about the Chesapeake Digital Preservation Group, and then Kim Dulin will be talking about Perma CC, and then Donna Neacşu will be giving her presentation. So, all right. So the Chesapeake project is somewhat different from the other strategies that we've been talking about today. It is something that I think is a good example of what can be done locally with tools at hand, and even though the project, as I'm going to describe it, is a project of the consortium, I think the strategy itself is indicative of one that could potentially be adopted by an institution by itself. It's a product of the time in which it was begun, so I'm going to give you a little background on that. The preliminary planning for Chesapeake began in 2006 as a pilot project between 3 libraries, Georgetown Law Library and the state libraries of Maryland and Virginia, and under the auspices of the Legal Information Preservation Alliance, or LIPA. And there was a recognition of the problem and the need for a solution. And these are libraries that are looking at trying to find a solution. And so the solution that was developed was a particularly library-like solution. And then in 2010, after the pilot was done, the group formed the Chesapeake Digital Preservation Group, and Harvard joined at that time. Actually, the pilot ended in 2009. So what the digital, what Chesapeake is a digital repository. So we've heard about websites being archived. We've heard about technological solutions like Herbert just told us about in terms of utilizing web capture, and we've heard about a little bit about Perma, and we're going to hear more about Perma, about managing this problem from the perspective of the link. And really, Chesapeake is about managing the documents, and a link is a part of that, but it's truly a digital repository for born digital material, so things that only exist in electronic form. Primarily things that live only on the web, have no paper version. So that's what Chesapeake is about. There's a small capacity in Chesapeake for web capture, but it's primarily about archiving born digital documents. The technology behind the Chesapeake project, it started from the beginning with OCLC and OCLC's Dark Archive. Originally, OCLC had this single product called their Dark Archive, or their Digital Archive, sorry. In the middle of the pilot phase of the project, OCLC moved to a 2-tiered approach where Content DM became the access part of their strategy, and they had a separate Dark Archive, completely separate. And that strategy from the perspective of OCLC adds to one of the things that I'll talk a little bit about, which is the messiness, I should say, of getting things into the Chesapeake Digital Preservation Archive. One of the other pieces that I think is really important to distinguish Chesapeake from some of the other projects that we've talked about is that Chesapeake is very much about metadata as well as archiving, the raw bit streams. So, and in fact, in the first 2 years of the project, in the evaluations that were done, the metadata creation was the number one most time-consuming part of the project, was creating metadata. And for anybody who is a librarian, that shouldn't be much of a surprise. It's sort of true whenever you're creating, whenever you have some sort of resource that you need to create metadata for. Metadata is a time-consuming piece of it. The pilot, which ran from 2007 to 2009, was very much about proof of concept. So they didn't have specific benchmarks that they were trying to meet in terms of volume. So consequently, at the end of 2009, the total number of items to be put into the archive were 4,306. And as opposed to in the most recent report that I got from Perma, after I guess it's been a year, the total number of vested links was 21,182. So we can see that there's a real difference. However, I want to make the point that we're really talking about two different animals. So, as I said, metadata is a key feature to this, and the process involves using OCLC WorldCat to find metadata, to bring it into a project manager, which is a client, and to connect it up with the digital object, which goes into the archive. There's a lot of going back and forth. There's several indexing steps that go into this, so it's not a clean process. So as I mentioned, OCLC is the library catalog part. Content DM is the interface. There's an online administrator, and there's a local project client. So all of those four things all have to work together in order to get something into the repository and for somebody to be able to search and find it. So here's an example of an item that was selected for inclusion in the Chesapeake project, and between the time that it was nominated for inclusion and the time it was actually put into or looked to go into the Chesapeake project, it had disappeared. So the other aspect of the Chesapeake project that people have alluded to today is the link rot study. So in 2008, as part of the evaluation of the pilot, the group started to create a data set that would be analyzed for link rot. And it was a total of 1,266 titles as of February 27, 2007, and of that they chose 579 randomly selected titles and ran link checker. Actually, it was done manually. So they were manually checked to see if the links were still persistent. And at that point in time, there was about an 8, or somewhere around an 8% link rot. And from this set of statistics, you can see that that rate has maintained. There's one year where you can see there's a little bit of an anomaly, and that was one of the major websites had changed their domain, and just as Roger was talking about with some of the ways in which you can mediate that, that didn't happen. So you can see the much greater degree of link rot from that year. In addition to the set that we check every year, and we just came out with the link rot study for 2014, checking that same 579 links. Other randomly selected links were chosen every year from the materials that came in that year, and were checked to see if the rate was consistent with those materials. This year we decided to try out various tools to check links automatically. So we tried an extension with Excel. We tried a couple of different online tools for link checking and decided to use Xenu. You may be familiar with Xenu. I had not used it before, but we checked the entire corpus in the Chesapeake Digital Preservation repository. And from that, you can see that there were 9,000 items altogether. We had to dedupe. There was some duplication, and there were some materials that didn't actually have, that were put in directly and so didn't have URLs. So of that, there were 6,481 links. And you can see from this chart that with the second set, there was even still, just from this year, 31% link rot. So I think this is completely in line with the other things that we were hearing this morning about the scope of this problem. One of the things that we found with some of the other online link checkers is that they will check websites and they may follow links to go to check those websites, but what we wanted to do was be able to feed it a list of links and have it just check those links, and it was amazing how few tools that we found could actually do that, and the couple that we did find, Xenu worked pretty well. The other one was fairly inaccurate when you did a check again manually and checked against what it was coming up with what you were finding. And there's always issues with how these things are defined or how completely that web checker can differentiate between the various codes. One thing that I don't think I've seen today is any kind of display of the various codes. I mean, we titled this conference 404, but you may know that there are many, many codes that can come back with a link that doesn't quite work the way you expect it to be. So some link checkers work better than others in terms of differentiating between those various codes and understanding what they mean. So where do we go from here? So the content, the Chesapeake Digital Preservation Group still meets and is still active and is still going and harvesting born digital material from the web and putting it into the repository, the Content DM repository. But we have recently started having discussions about whether that's the model we want to continue with. We did talk with our Harvard partners about Perma and whether Perma was a direction that the project could go towards, and they were very forthright in saying that for what Chesapeake does now, Perma isn't meant to do. And a big part of that is the repository functionality. There's a certain amount of deduping that goes into suggesting materials to go in and putting things in, and there's that metadata creation. So consequently, we have a searchable database attached to a digital repository, which is a very different model from Perma, as we'll hear. But we are talking about whether or not, we've heard from OCLC that Content DM is being rebuilt, and that may offer some solutions for us in terms of the difficulty in getting materials into the repository. We've also, I've heard things today that could really affect where the Chesapeake project goes. We've also been contacted by others who are interested in what Chesapeake is doing and would like to do things either like it or join. There's certain reticence about trying to recreate the same paradigm in their own areas because this is a regional consortium. But we're discussing ways in which the Chesapeake group might either adopt some additional membership categories or accept suggestions from other institutions for materials to be included into Chesapeake. So Chesapeake is definitely still moving forward, and we're investigating ways in which we can continue to move forward from the paradigm from where from 2007 when it was first developed. So does anyone have any questions? I think I have about a minute if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Kim, who will talk to us about PERMA. Okay, now I'm going. Am I just okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Michelle. This is a great conference, and we're really happy to be here. I also want to give a big shout out to Margie Mays and LIPA, because LIPA has been really helpful and a good financial supporter of PERMA, and so I just want to thank you. So I understand that there are a lot of questions about PERMA, so what I'd kind of like to do is just give you some basics, and then for those of you that aren't that familiar with how it works, I do want to run you through just the process of making a permalink and essentially how simple it is, and just talk a little bit about a couple of other things. And then I'm happy to answer questions because I know there's a lot. The other thing is I have to be honest and say that I am the least technical person on the PERMA team. We sent the librarian down today, but we have a good team. We have a small team, but it's good, and a couple of developers that are really, really close to PERMA. And if you have technical questions, you can send those to I think it's info@perma.cc. It's on my next slides. So okay, what is PERMA? It's a caching solution that allows authors and journals to make permanent links for citations that they want to put in their papers, in their court opinions. And so it's very simple. You have a URL. You want to make an archive of it. You simply copy and paste the URL into PERMA, and PERMA will give you a new permanent, in quotations, archive. So here's our home page. It's shown up a few times today. And one of the things I really want to say about today is it's really made me realize it takes a village. There's so many people working on this. There's got to be a way we can figure it out. But I think it is a distributed solution. So PERMA is just one option for folks. So I want to just give you a sense of what PERMA is about in terms of the theory and why we built it this way. And just also to acknowledge that it's only a year old, as Jonathan said this morning. It was his idea. He's a brilliant person, and he'll say, let's solve link rot today. And so we got busy, and we started trying to solve link rot. And we're still in beta. We keep saying we're in beta, we're in beta. I don't know when we're ever going to be out of beta, but it is definitely a work in progress, and we really want people to help us make it right and make it work. So the first thing about PERMA is it's totally web-based. You don't have to download anything. Anyone can use it from any place. It's user-directed. So it's different than the Chesapeake project, where that's a curated collection. It's different than the Internet Archive Wayback Machine, which is going around and trolling and taking snapshots. This is a system that's entirely, your archive is created entirely at the whim or the wish of the user. It's library powered, and we take this very seriously. We wanted PERMA to be enmeshed in the library world because we're the people, us librarians, who know how to preserve things. And we're trusted. People look to us to knowing how to preserve things. And so we thought, who better than libraries to take on this challenge? And that's why we have library partners, and I'll talk about how you can be a partner. It's open source. So, and that's one of our mantras at the Harvard Library Innovation Lab, is everything we create is open source. We'll put our code up on GitHub. David has already put a couple of new features into PERMA today just by going into GitHub and using our API. Oops. And it's free. So I'm behind. It's free. So that everybody says, oh, it's free. How can that be? You can't ever be sustainable by being free. And we acknowledge that. So I'm going to talk about our contingency plan later, but we do have plans, and we have talked to some other people out there about eventually making, if PERMA is going to be sustainable, possibly spinning it out into a 501c3 and getting some sort of financial fee membership. We have made a commitment to the courts that they will always have PERMA access for free, and we want to continue to make PERMA free for educational institutions. But we know that there's a lot of interest from some commercial entities out there to use PERMA. We know that law firms and lawyers are interested in it, so the jury's out exactly on how we might make it sustainable, but it's definitely one of the things we want to focus on going forward. Okay, so the vesting thing is the thing about PERMA that a lot of people don't fully understand. Anyone can go onto PERMA and get an account and make a PERMA link. But unless you are affiliated with a library or a court who is a PERMA partner or a PERMA registrar, you will not have the ability to vest the link. And what does vest mean? Vest means that we'll put it in our archive and we'll keep it forever, as long as PERMA's last and contingency plan and all that kind of stuff. If you do not vest the link, it will last for 2 years, and then we'll send out a reminder, do you want to renew this? But there's no guarantee that it will be lasting forever. Because, why do we do this? Because this was a debate. A lot of people were saying that's not free web. You guys are limiting what you're doing. We said we want to try to prevent link rot in legal scholarship and in the court world, and let's focus on that. And there was a debate about not wanting to have people's vacation photos and just anything up there. So that's why we have the vesting function. This is just a little slide of the PERMA users, and essentially the libraries and the courts are in the middle. Those are what we call the PERMA registrars. They're our partners. They're the ones that we enter into our system, and we give them the power to make any entity that they're affiliated with. So for libraries, journals, faculty, whomever at your school. For the courts, the clerks, the reporters of decisions, to make those people have the ability to vest and make them a vesting organization. And then around the very exterior are the vesting users, and generally those are the law students who are doing the work of vesting the links and the subsites. The dark archive. So the dark archive is a part of PERMA in that, as you know, if for some reason a user uploads something that is violative of copyright, or if that user decides he doesn't want that captured, the user can notify us, and or there could be a DMCA takedown notice, which we would comply with. And in that situation, we would put it in the dark archive. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. So I guess I just did that. So if something is put in the dark archive, this is what happens. This is what the user would see when they came to PERMA. Apologies, this link has been dark archived. Contact a librarian to get a copy. So in that situation, anyone who is a PERMA library partner would still have the capacity to see what was in that dark archive. And if the person wanted to see that particular document, he or she could contact the library and go and see the site on the premises. And we think that complies with the copyright law. So another way that libraries play a part in PERMA is they can be mirror sites, meaning they would mirror the content of the PERMA servers at Harvard, which right now the main PERMA servers are at Harvard. And we have a couple of folks who have expressed an interest. One of them is in the audience out there. LSU is one of the people that's interested in serving as a mirror. We would love to have anyone who's interested in serving as a mirror site for PERMA to contact us. We don't have the mirror set up yet, but we will soon. So a mirror site would just be us putting putting the content on a server at your particular school or court, and then there's a round robining that would eventually put the links so that it's not one-sided, but everyone would share the perma load. Now, there are some people that might want to be a mirror, but maybe their infrastructure, their IT department isn't that robust. So we had developed something called the Perma Box. And essentially, the Perma Box, as we talked about this morning, it's not that much. You know, the content that's in Perma is not that much. So we have developed a Perma Box, and it's essentially a copy of the archive. We'll ship it out to you. You can plug it into your network, put it under your desk, and you'll continue to have Perma in a lightweight manner. If something goes wrong, you can ship it back to us, and we'll send you another one. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to extend the archive. Okay, so here's how it works. First of all, just to create a Perma archive, you either copy a source URL that you want to archive, and we do have a little bookmarklet that you can install on your browser, and you can just, once you're in a particular website, you can just click on that and it will do it for you. And it will assign a unique Perma URL. So here, what I did is I went in the other day and to the CDC, and I wanted to capture an update on Ebola. And so this is the first process, the first step in doing the Perma. So you'll see there's the potential Perma citation, the new citation, and then there's a button that says you want to view and vest. So here's where you would go when you're ready to make the decision to vest. The way Perma presents what you're getting ready to vest is the live page view is presented first. So you'll see, is the site still what it is, or has it changed? But this is a picture of the live site. And then there are two options. Once you say you want to capture the archive, you will have two ways of capturing, the screen capture and the archived page capture. So here's the capture. This is the archived page. The difference between the screen capture and the archived page is the screen capture is just simply a snapshot or screenshot of the website. The archived page includes the links that work. And then if you want to vest it, you think it's good to go, click on Vest Site, and you're done. So I just added this slide because this is a new feature that we just added in response to some of our users. A lot of the folks that are using Perma are law reviews, and they wanted to be able to see permalinks that other folks on the law review had vested. In the original permit, you could only see the links that you had made and vested yourself. So our users said, we want to see them all so that we don't make the same links over and over, for one thing. And so we now have a new foldering system. So when you make a link, you're asked, where do I want the link to go? And you can assign it either to My Links, which is your private folder, or to your organization's links. So this is just, unfortunately, whenever I demo anything of mine, it looks weird because I'm a Perma person, at Harvard, and so everything looks crazy. But that just shows that we are responsive to requests. Okay, then once you're done with your link, making your link, you would put it in your paper or your court opinion. And one of the things that Herbert was talking about that I think is so important is we recommend, we can't tell you what to do, but we recommend including the original URL and the permalink. And because we're not trying to steal, first of all, forget link rot, we're not trying to steal content from the original web owner. We're just trying to capture something if it's gone wrong. So the Blue Book is working on revising the next edition, and there's going to be some sort of rule on Perma. And we're hoping that they will go with the original URL and then something like this. But again, a lot of legal journals, and I know courts are concerned too with the length of URLs and page counts, but I really do think it's a better practice is to include both. Okay, when a reader encounters a permalink, this is from the Michigan Supreme Court, which is our first, well, actually our second court partner. Our first court partner was the Virgin Islands. but Michigan has been one of our strongest advocates, and they use PERMA quite frequently. So here they did exactly what I said. No, they did it right. Yeah, they did it right. Never mind. They put both in. And what they were trying to do in this court case was they were trying to show the FBI's most wanted, the 10 most wanted, and which is important. And, you know, the 10 most wanted in January is obviously going to be different by the time than the 10 most wanted in August, whenever the court decision comes out. So here's how you would go and see the permalink if you were following that citation. Okay. Contingency plan. Everyone's been talking about what happens. What's going to happen to if PERMA goes belly up, or we decide that we don't want to do it anymore, or I mean, and that's the question of the year. There's no certainty in anything. Brewster could, I guess, shut down, God forbid. But one of the things that we have done, and you can look at this on our website, we have our contingency plan up there. Essentially, what we want to do is, right now, we are working with redundant third-party services to send our links off and have them captured elsewhere. We use the WARC format file, so every permalink that's being made right now is being sent off to Brewster, to the Internet Archive. We're working with some other third-party services as well. If, God forbid, we decided to shut down, we have a 2-year plan where we would notify users that we're going to shut down, and we would figure out a place to move the archive to a new host. We would help seek, look around and help people find new hosts, and we would publish a map file that would make the links follow, the permalinks follow. I don't know, this is something, it's like a technical thing, but I think it's, it's a text file mapping each permalink back to the original archive link. So you can read more about that. And then for 10 years, we will maintain a low-cost redirect server. So, and we will always maintain the Perma archive at Harvard, and you could get it, if you needed to. It's just if we stopped maintaining Perma, that would be the way it would work. So, questions? One of the things I did want to mention is we are working to develop a memento protocol for Perma, and we are working on getting a sort of a batch uploading system to get the Perma sites in much more quickly. And we received a grant from the Mellon and Columbia Web Archiving Initiative this past year, and so those things are going to be part of that grant. Do folks have questions? Yeah. No. No.
Could you repeat the question?
Do permalinks show up in Google search results? No, they don't, because we do not have Google index Perma because we do not want to steal the original website's traffic. We're just, a user backup.
How long is Perma available?
Since a year ago. Jonathan said he thought it was a year ago today.
And then what's the buy-in? What the example of content or example of the quality of content?
The quality of the content?
That's coming from one of our webinars.
So. I guess I don't understand the question.
Do you have any investment in? I would guess that maybe they're asking about does Perma have any investment in what actually is being captured? Like somebody could go out and capture their vacation photos.
Well, that's why we have vesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we made it. We purposely made it so that pornography and vacation photos would not be preserved forever, because we want to preserve the scholarly output of the legal community and court decisions. Yes.
How do you become a vesting partner?
Very easy. all you have to do is contact me, and there's my email. And it's very simple. It takes 5 minutes. All we need from you is your name, obviously, your organization, your website URL, and an email. And then all we do is enter you into our system, and then whoever is going to be doing the PERMA work will get an automated email from us saying, here's your username and password. And then any questions or help you need, we're available to help you out with that. One thing I did want to mention today is I know there's a lot of government agency librarians here too, and we don't have any government agency partners currently. We would be really happy to have some government agency registrars. We're soliciting the courts in a big way. Hopefully Colorado will be coming on board, the Colorado Supreme Court. We have the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. We would love to have more courts, but we would also love to have more partners from agencies and in others, those of us in the legal world who are trying to protect our scholarship and our output. Okay, thank you. Okay.
So I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'm going to introduce myself by a way of asking you, how do you pronounce Linux?
Linux.
And who created Linux? And how do you pronounce GNU?
GNU.
And who created that? All right, Richard Stallman. Excellent. So I heard many of you using the word open source, and I would like to say that this is about free source. That's just because of Richard Stallman. And again, you haven't heard about me because I'm like Richard Stallman. You haven't heard about me. But before Jonathan, there was a pilot project at Columbia. That was 15 years ago, and I introduced that pilot project at Toronto, and Marilyn was there. She was organizing a similar conference. And let's see what's going on here. SIG Transit Information Mundi. So I was telling you by way of stalling, because we had a small problem with computer, that I think librarians have always noticed, as someone from Web Archive, I forgot your name, mentioned, that archiving information is something that librarians have always done. And in 2000, when I was graduated from CUNY Library School, I noticed that, in fact, a lot of URLs that were used to reference information in law journal footnotes were empty if you clicked on them. And I thought, this is weird, because we in a Western style scholarship, we rely on previous scholarship. So how are we going to support statements today if the footnotes where we reference information are identifying only internet-based information, and that information is not there? And I was thinking about that, and I wasn't the only one to think about that. Look at this. This was, and it still is, I don't think I'm using the internet presentation. I think I'm using something, a duplicate. Okay. So my presentation is going to be full with not found URLs. So let me see if I'm going to. All right. And where do I go for that? Shift. So I will stay out of my presentation. I'm used to this. I'm going to I'm going to tell you the story back at Columbia. And I'm going to entertain you with videos later on. And is this the web one? Try this now, yes. So I was telling you that librarians were interested in preserving information, and and I'm going to keep saying that for a while. That is a recipe that I was very fun to discover that someone thought about a permanent link for their recipe for some Italian food recipe. So it's not just librarians thinking about it, but we went a step forward, and going back, I'm improvising, I cannot use my presentation. So at Columbia, we came up, let's see. Yes, it works. So we came up with this legal URL citation archive. So in 2000, I thought about going around libraries and inviting them in joining into a project where every single library would take care of the URLs that were used by their own journals to identify information cited in the footnote. At Columbia, I thought that we have 14 journals. It should be our job as librarians to make sure that we create a mirror site for all those URLs. And I put together a small budget, and it would have taken, I think, a shared server, someone with very little education, maybe high school or diploma, and about 10 hours a week to be able to harvest all those URLs. So it was quite a modest proposal, and because it was so modest, no one liked it. So I'm very happy to see that, in fact, Harvard is behind modest proposals, because that's the way to do it. And more than that, I'm happy to see that .coms are interested, because indeed, this is going to cost peanuts money. And can you imagine the free publicity? Whoever does this is going to be a hero. But shh, we are not going to tell anybody about it. So Harvard to the rescue, the idea of centralization versus decentralization, and Perma promises solutions. And the good news and the bad news, I think Kim also mentioned them. Perma relies on volunteers, and the volunteers are going to change their mind. I was a bit upset to hear that there is a contingency plan already within a year of going on, but it may be that the Blue Book is going to save us. Because if scholarship grows out of the barrel of student-edited journals, so do permanent URLs, and that's anonymous. Does anybody know who am I paraphrasing here? Okay, I won't tell you. So how does the Blue Book is meant to save us? The Blue Book has those rules of citation. The Blue Book brought us into this quagmire to start with, because initially, I think until the 17th edition, no law journal was allowed to cite any source that existed in any other format than print. The moment the Blue Book allowed law journal editors to use internet-based information, we noticed the problem with link rot in legal scholarship. So how is the Blue Book going to save us? By talking to, I think, about a week ago, to the editor-in-chief from Columbia Law Review, who is partner with a few other law reviews in creating the Blue Book rules. At the end of October, which there is only 1 week left, they're going to introduce Perma rules of citation as a suggestion. So I can tell you, I'm the person at Columbia who allows vesting contributors. So I know that all the law journals at Columbia are using Perma except the Columbia Law Review. they're going to allow, so Blue Book is going to introduce the following rule. They are going to encourage journals to use PERMA. So PERMA is going to be encouraged to be used. I don't know whether this is going to change anybody's mind in addition to the journals who are already volunteering, and there are quite a few. I was a bit disappointed, so there is not going to be a mandate for having PERMA as of a week ago. And the new edition is coming up at the end of October. So every 5 years there is a hope. Now there is a 20th edition, maybe with a 21st edition. And I do hope that PERMA is going to stick around until then. And this was my presentation.